Hey everyone, Carlos here. I just wanted to create this quick video and point out to you a couple of things in today's trade that has been almost perfect. Although I know many people got confused because you've been going back and forth based on the two strategies that are involved, which is a pivot step system entry and the actual synergy zone. Now remember, there's a couple things, and I wanted to show it to you. First is we usually like to wait until 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, all right, to start analyzing our market. That's one thing for sure. Now, this arrow dictate on my part, like in San Juan, Puerto Rico, where that would be, and I came about 1:15, as a matter of fact, 1:30, close to that time. Got a little bit later than 1 a.m. and start analyzing the market. So first things, yeah, you got to wait until at least 1 a.m. All right, prior to the Frankfurt Open. Number two, there's a couple other things. By that time, you want to find out, all the pivots that are available. I'm talking about what are the pivots, where we are standing at. In this case, we were on low, so I'm looking for a lower pivot uh, prior to this one. All right, so I was just looking for a lower pivot, and I didn't find anyone. I'm going to explain that right now. And number three, the idea is to have the price fall within the synergy zone. That's exactly the three steps. One would be the time, precise time, which is 1 a.m. Prior to the Frankfurt Open, close to it. Start your analysis over there. Number two, find the pivots available just to find out if everything's in sync. And number three, prices should be close or near, hopefully, to the synergy zone. Okay, that's the whole thing that we're looking for. Now, the idea of the pivot step system is when we're pretty far away from the synergy zone and we don't find it, they kind of retrace towards it, but they fail to reach it, and that actually happens after 1 a.m. So we can find and try to find an entry based on the pivot step now that I know that the market is not going to reach our synergy zone. That's the whole point. It's past 1:30, close to 2 a.m. or 2 a.m. There's a couple of pivot steps in place and prices are far away from the synergy zone. Then we're going to go ahead and use the pivot step entry system. If prices are at 1 a.m., we're like in today, then the market right after 1 a.m. I watched a pivot step, like in this case, and there was none prior, not a lower pivot besides this one right here, or this one. And I decided to wait for the market to obviously give me another pivot and try to find one. And what for my surprise, the market reversed. Let me just show it to you what I'm talking about here. As you can see, by 1 a.m., let me just plot it. It would be this line right here. Let me eliminate it so you can see where we're at. Hold on. Eliminate. There you go. So this is where, when I came to the computer, where prices were. Immediately, I'm looking for a lower pivot than this one. There was none. I needed to go all the way back. All right, so just to see if that's actually the case. And in this scenario, the lower one was around here. So if I were to use a pivot step, this is exactly what we were supposed to be looking at. All right, something like so. All right, so that would have been the pivot step. All right, 1 a.m. afterwards, this is the pivot. I'm looking for the previous lowest one. There was none. And there you go. I needed to wait for the market to break through it. Now here's the cool thing. I noticed as the market reversed and reached the zone amazingly by the tick 53.50. Now I was very happy because I understood that the market was indeed coming back for the first time towards the synergy zone. That's cool. So the problem was that I didn't find any pivot step afterward that I can just hone in my entry. I'm still holding this sell, and I'm going to show you the reason why I do it. Why I did it. So this is a 30-minute. I couldn't find anything. What do you think that I should do? I dropped down to 15-minute chart. Did I find a pivot? I got my first one here. Here's the first pivot, but I don't find anybody here. So I did drop down to 5-minute, and guess what? There was it. This is a perfect pivot. Look, the first one here, the market came here, came back up. This is my second opportunity. This is my first pivot, second pivot. I got a possibility to go short, and guess what? I went short right there as the market just broke through it. And I found my opportunity to go short the market perfectly. Came back to the synergy zone, waited for the pivot. I found it on the 5-minute. I needed to be dynamic and find the opportunity because, you know, it came to the synergy zone. And what I've been telling you, synergy zone is a higher probability reversal point. The market just touch it by the tick. Take a look at it. And reverse altogether. I waited for the small pullback. Identify second pivot, first pivot. I went through it. I took it. I nailed down the first target. Eventually, the market, let me just back to the 15-minute chart, bounced from it. By the first target, I liquidated half of my position as usual. Okay, let me show this to you. By this time, I got 35 pips. I liquidated half of it. What do you think that I did? I moved to break-even point by that time. Obviously, I cancel it right now because I'm about to close this one. I'll move to break-even point or the pivot. You know, it should have been this one. I'm break-even point. The market just went through it. Second target was reached. Now they're going towards the third target, and I'm gonna be done for the day. And as a matter of fact, just wanted to show it to you because I believe that it's going to be reached, that third target. So in this case, by holding through the whole process of analysis and following through the steps of expectancy, finding the pivots, the precise time and entry, the opportunities to lay out a plan of while the market is active and reacting towards certain levels. I knew what I was looking for. I just needed for everything to fall into place so I can just execute, trying to create a high probability trading in our case. In this case, I waited, I dropped down, and I found out my opportunity right there, and this is where I'm at right now. So on the first target, I liquidated 15 pips on. I liquidated about a little bit over 15 pips, and so far I'm up 107 pips on the remaining half of the contract. That is actually, that's half a contract. That's pretty much about 50 something pips on that one. So I'm going to be able to liquidate about 55 pips on the second one. Not bad for execution, and all laid out plan was reached altogether. Okay, so that's about it. I just wanted to show this to you while it's happening. I received a couple of emails of people saying, "Whoa, I'm sure the market. I almost got stopped out. I went short and I left the stop loss where on the original target price. In this case, I was risking about 88 pips immediately, but this is where my initial stop loss was. But remember, here's my pivot high. What I did is from this point on, from that high, I raised about 15 pips. My stop was around that level, 53.67. So if you go to 53.67, all right, towards my entry, instead of risking 88 pips, I risk 58 pips. That's about 30 pips that I recoup immediately on risk alone. That's the way that it's supposed to be done, analyzing the whole aspects. If the market just touched its own and came back down, there's no need for me to use the original point, as I'm just entering on the breakout and they left behind a pivot high. The only way that it works out on the original stop loss was because if I went short inside the zone, this should be the stop loss. Remember that the stop loss is also a highly reversal indicator that if the market touch it, the potential of reversing back towards it, it's high. All right, and that's about it. We're about to be rich on this one, and while we're at it, let me just liquidate the position. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can do this with you. And let's just close that position. There you go. All right, so that's about it. And I just want to show this to you as a way of explaining while it's happening, because I believe that's one of the best things that I have done so far. It takes a long time to execute trades. It's a precise entry, precise level. If you noticed, it took a little bit later than usual. So, persistence and patience is one of the skills that you need to evolve into this stuff of trading. All right, so I'll get back to you on today's and tonight's forecast for tomorrow. This was a perfect, nicely developed trade, and I wanted to point this out to you live while it's happening so you can understand and compare of what you would have. If not, any of you have not been participating with us, let us help you become profitable with Forex trading by laying out a plan. You will not only be able to capitalize on a daily basis with our opportunity, you're going to be learning how to become a great trader by analyzing no indicators whatsoever. It's a pure analysis, and it's actually the way to go. This is Carlos Diaz, and I'll see you on the next forecast.